Chongqing.
A megacity in China. If you search on the internet for the world's biggest city, you'll find various different candidates: Tokyo, Seoul, Shanghai, Chongqing. Which one you regard as the holder of the title all depends on what you mean by city. I visited the city of Chongqing, shown on this map. Chongqing is known for its fog and composed of steep hills and mountains. As a result of this, it is sometimes compared to Hong Kong. When booking your hotel or Airbnb, I would advise checking it is officially licensed to take foreigners. We booked this cool looking Airbnb with a slide. Sadly, the host cancelled the booking as they were not officially licensed to take foreigners. If you are used to Western toilets, I would also advise checking these are available when you are booking. We didn't check this and had problems getting a refund. Anyway, our apartment had amazing views. I was reunited with my brother on this trip, who is living in Hong Kong. He arrived very late in the day and we struggled to find an open restaurant. We ended up going to this restaurant which specialises in brains. The food was delicious, however, we didn't try brains, its specialist dish. Travelling at the pace we had been travelling in China had really tired me out, as you can see from these pictures we took. My favourite activity in Chongqing was going to the Chongqing Historic Sites Museum of the War of Resistance against Japan. We actually stumbled across this museum. It wasn't in my Lonely Planet book, which was the latest edition, or on the wiki travel page. We had planned to hike up a mountain called Nanshan, meaning South Mountain. We took a taxi there and then realised Nanshan is a huge area, so we got dropped off in a random place and walked upwards without really knowing what we were doing, and then we stumbled upon the museum. On the way up, David helped someone with their car. Here you can see an example of Chinese people loving their white cars. We also saw this insect, which looked exactly like a leaf. Going back to the main subject, the museum. It was definitely one of the best museums I've ever been to in my life. It was indoor and outdoor, had amazing views of Chongqing, and was where Chiang Kai-shek used to live. Another thing to note about the museum is you could use WeChat to scan QR codes which were dotted around in different places. These provided audio and text information in Chinese and English, which I enjoyed very much.
Originally a single-story viewing pavilion with
From the viewing platform I could see two rivers, the Yangtze and the Jialing. I had seen really cool pictures of the confluence of these two rivers online. As you can see, there is a big change in colour, but in reality I did not see this change in colour. Anyway, going back to the museum. This historical site contains well-preserved buildings, including one of the founding fathers of Taiwan's house, Chiang Kai-shek's house. Churchill and Roosevelt once saw him as the legitimate leader of China. For 8 years he led the War of Resistance against Japan from the then wartime capital Chongqing. I love this historical house open-air museum style. The furnishings were displayed in a way that reflects the original placement and usage in a home. It contained traces of memory of the people who once lived there. One thing I've never understood is why the Chinese translations into English are always so bad. Here's an example I saw in the museum. The place I was most excited going to was the Hipster area in Chongqing. Testbed 2 Art Centre. It's a cultural and creative park in Chongqing. This place was a printing factory half a century ago. The shops in Testbed 2 are varied. There was clothing, jewellery, pottery, food, coffee, art galleries and Instagram museum, you name it.
Looks like spam.
That was actually one of our best meals in Chongqing.
You do anything?
After Testbed 2, you can easily get to Eling Park, which is on the top of a mountain. It will definitely give you a great view of Chongqing if it isn't foggy, which it regularly is. Didn't work. One bar I'd recommend visiting is Flavor Lounge. They serve Chongqing-inspired drinks which are really interesting. And they also gave us a load of free stuff, from chicken soup to shots. Upstairs there was a local place for playing mahjong, which I found super interesting. As a lover of spicy food, Chongqing food blew my mind.
1、2 Okay.
We obviously had Chongqing hotpot. I've made a more detailed video on Chongqing hotpot and will add a link to that video in this video's description. Another dish that blew my mind was the sour and spicy sweet potato noodles. It's one of Sichuan's most famous street foods. Fun fact, Chongqing was part of Sichuan until 1997, so its culinary roots are pretty similar. Another must-see is the Chongqing train, which passes through a block of flats. It uses specialised noise reduction equipment to isolate station noise from the surrounding residences. Contrary to some misreporting, the station and building were constructed together as one whole structure. Another popular attraction is Hongya Cave. I went a couple of times and found it too busy for my liking, and also incredibly touristy. However, my brother went in the early hours and said it was actually quite nice. So I was definitely going at the wrong time. It's basically a shopping arcade on a steep cliff. It appealed to me because it looked like a building on Spirited Away. This is the footage my brother took. As you can see, it looks quiet and peaceful, but he did go extremely early in the morning. Across the bridge from Hongya Dong, there's also quite a nice view of Chongqing. It has kind of a hipster vibe and it feels much more relaxed, which I enjoyed. Following the advice in my Lonely Planet guide, we decided to go on a city cruise. Having lived in Hong Kong, I didn't think the view was as good. Another place we went to is Ciqikou. It's an ancient town in Chongqing, but now it's kind of like a tourist trap. Its saving grace is that it does have a 1,500-year-old Buddhist temple, which straddles the mountain in the middle of the old town, which was really quite beautiful and not very busy. We also went to the Three Gorges Museum. With hindsight, it would have been better to go to the actual Three Gorges. It is opposite the Chongqing People's Hall, which is a large hall used for cultural and political events. The exterior looks similar to the Temple of Heaven in Beijing.
That actually means Hero City.
Thank you for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you next time.